So, hello. Welcome everybody to the Leadership Library. It is the number one podcast for leadership for millennials, where we interview powerful people, powerful leaders who have the perspective of your boss or your boss's boss and can really give you that insight and let you know what is expected of you before you arrive to your industry. So this is really for the entry level folks and folks who are changing careers and getting you ready to do so. So we have a powerful guest, Miss Rhonda Williams, and would just like for her to introduce herself now.
Absolutely. Hi, Barry. Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here with you. I'm excited about this conversation. So, my name is Rhonda Williams. They call me the Stress Free Leader, and I am the CEO and Chief Creative Officer of Dream Life Leadership Academy. And what we do at Dream Life Leadership Academy is we work with leaders to do a number of things. Number one, we help them position themselves for higher level leadership positions and to get prepared for those higher positions. We work with leaders who just want to achieve better results and better outcomes in their leadership life. We also work with leaders to help them design and create a life that they love instead of accepting the life that they get. Right. So that's a strategic process that we work with them so that they can begin to design life and love leading again. So that's who I am and that's what I do. I'm a four-time author as well. I host two podcast shows, the Coffee with Rhonda show and the Stress Free Leader. And so I am just excited about our conversation.
Oh boy, excited. That is my word. Anybody who knows me know you're bound to hear that word at least 5 times a day from me. I gotta make it my middle name. I really do. So yes. Wow, so powerful. Just from the introduction alone, so powerful. So I'm really looking forward to just sinking our teeth in and just adding value here today. So just for everyone, could you just define and kind of categorize your industry? And then after that, if you can just tell us what does it take to be successful in your industry?
Absolutely. So, primarily, my industry is that of coaching or consulting. I do a combination of those things across various of the major industries. So, I do a lot with healthcare. I work a lot with entrepreneurs as well, with small to mid sized businesses. And then I work with those executive leaders from sort of a variety of different industries. It might be the tech industry or those, but ultimately what I do as a coach is about helping leaders to improve their outcomes and their results, and whether that is personal or whether that is professional. There are times when when you are a rock star at work, but in your personal life you feel like things are a little edgy, right? You're sort of teetering a bit. And then there are times
Oh
where
yeah.
you're like, oh man, my personal life is good, but in my professional life, I am stressed, overwhelmed. I'm not sure where I'm going next, or I'm trying to get this position, and I don't feel confident about that, or I'm just not getting the results that I want. And so, bringing those two and bridging those together is what I do as as a coach and as a consultant. And so that's the industry. And I think really important in terms of being successful in this industry is having a really firm understanding of yourself.
Mm.
Most people, that's probably not what most people thought I was going to say. Right. Most people thought I was headed somewhere else, but ultimately, and I think this ties directly in with leadership. A lot of the work that I do is uses the foundation of emotional intelligence. And so, the very first thing that emotional intelligence teaches us is you have to understand you. You have to understand who you are, what your triggers are, how you show up, how you react and respond. And when you can really understand those things about yourself, then you are in a much better position to serve someone else. And again, that goes back to what is leadership? It's about serving and inspiring others to an outcome or a result. And so being able to connect with who you are so that you can show up in the most powerful, most effective way to support and serve that leader that you're working with.
Wow. That is amazing. And yeah, so I love it. And so we met on Clubhouse, right?
Yes.
And it's interesting that of all the leadership talks I've been a part of on Clubhouse, emotional intelligence has been a part of every single one. So I literally started to just start a clock at the beginning of the talk and see how long it took for emotional intelligence to come up. And I love that you start right at the beginning, self awareness, right? So, what are some tactics? Because you kind of gave us an overview of how to do it, but what are some tactics to really begin to learn yourself and delve into self
Yeah,
awareness?
really great question, Barry. I think it begins by paying attention and simply noticing. You cannot affect, you cannot change, you cannot improve what you don't notice. And so the very first place that you have to begin is to notice how you show up, how you're thinking, how you're processing information. And once you have that level of awareness, then you can, without judgment, this isn't about judging yourself or beating yourself up. You don't need to go, oh, here I go again. I'm thinking these thoughts again. That's self defeating. That's not necessary and it's not helpful. What I just want simply
Mhm.
ask leaders to do, and when I start with a leader, this is where I start. I want you to just begin noticing. Use a journal, jot down what you're thinking periodically during the day, jot down how
Okay.
you're feeling periodically during the day, and then in the evening, go back and reflect on, I was really angry at around 10 a.m. in the morning. What was I thinking? What was I feeling? What triggered me to react that way? And you will begin to notice patterns that show up that we don't ordinarily pay attention to. And we all have them in our lives. We have these patterns and habits. For instance, one of my triggers is when my sons leave the dishes. Right?
Oh yeah.
It's a big time trigger. And I had to notice this trigger. And I wasn't noticing when I was just in the place of reacting. I was just reacting. You see dishes and whoop, you're just 0 to 60 in 2 seconds flat. But
Yes.
then when I began to notice that I was being triggered, it gave me an opportunity to choose a different response. Okay. When I began to notice how I was being triggered, it gave me an opportunity to have a different response. And
Okay.
then I was able to respond a little bit more constructively and a little bit more results oriented. I always tell leaders you should be results oriented in your communication and your approach. What is the result you're hoping for? That should determine your approach. And so, and back to leaders and being self aware, when you're noticing, you're journaling, you're really seeing those patterns that you show up with each and every day. And now you can begin to decide, I love these things that I do. These things are awesome. I'm good with these. I think these things I want to look at. I don't think they're serving me as well. When I fly off at the office and I go off on everybody, all of a sudden nobody's talking for me to everybody's moving out of my way when I walk up the hall for the next 2 days. That's not serving me well as a leader. And so then you can begin to decide where you want to spend time and energy and effort to improve some of those behaviors that are not serving you. So that's where I begin with self-awareness and just that foundational piece of understanding you and then deciding what's serving you and then putting in the effort to make some minor adjustments so that those things serve you better. Not perfection is not the goal. We are simply trying to show up as our best selves.
Wow, wow. So I love this. And so for a second, I would like to go back, if we may, if we can do that, because I think you and I come from a different perspective, and I really I wanna be able to engage everyone. So for those who don't quite know much about emotional intelligence. You've started to open up that door and allow us to see what is it and what is it about, where does it start, but what can it really do for you? Why
Mm.
should I even care about emotional intelligence?
Whew, that is a loaded question.
I'm
It's
sorry. I
that
mean,
is a loaded question, and I love it. It's such an important question. So let me first start by saying, what is emotional intelligence? Uh, and for me, keeping it simple is very, very important. So emotional
okay.
intelligence is simply the act of understanding yourself, your thoughts, your emotions, and being able to be aware and understand that in others, their thoughts, their emotions, what they might be feeling. And then it's the ability to put that information together and use it in such a way that it gets you better results.
Mm,
So, in
okay.
effect, you're taking two key pieces of information, what you know about yourself and what you know about others, and you're blending those two to say, how do I get more of what I want and less of what I don't? Now, Now let's rephrase the question.
Okay.
Why does it matter to why should you care about getting more of what you want? What?
Oh wow.
Right? Now when you look at it from that perspective, it's almost like how could you not care? Is there anything else that matters other than this? Like ultimately we are here to live a joyful, happy, abundant life, and that is about getting more of what we want and less of what we don't. That's it. Period in the story. That's life.
Mm, wow, that was rich. Oh, you just wow. You just reframing that like, oh wow, yes. So that is amazing. That is amazing. So that is huge. So what has your journey been like navigating and learning about emotional intelligence and working your way to the top, if you will?
Yeah. So just a little bit about me. I was born in Philadelphia. So I'm originally a Philly girl. Go Eagles. Any Eagles fans out there? That's my whole thing. And so we moved out into the suburbs early. So I first, really started paying attention to everything around me when we moved from inner city Philly, which was all black, to the suburbs, which was not. Right. And so that began my whole journey, even though I didn't know it at the time. At the time, I was just a person trying to find my way and navigate. But everything around me changed at that moment. And so it was a moment for me to begin paying attention. Where am I the same? Where am I different? These people think differently than me. What's that mean for me? What's the impact? Now, I'm an introvert. People often meet me and think that I'm not, but I am so an introvert. And that started very, very early in my life from being in situations like this where I really went within myself and I stayed there for quite a time. So you fast forward to this person, to this young girl in the suburbs, and trying to go and navigate this different path. And I got married very young. And my husband and I, we have three sons together, and we moved to Texas. So now I sort of shifted my
Wow.
world again. So I went from inner city Philly to the suburbs with a lot of people that didn't look like me to Texas, which was a whole different universe almost. And so I was constantly putting myself in these states of change and not really realizing. And what that did for me is it helped me develop a sense of nimbleness and flexibility to be able to sort of ease, ebb, and flow with whatever was happening around me. I'm a registered nurse by trade and worked in hospitals and started to advance in the hospital level, became a supervisor. And again, now this is a whole different world for me, from being a staff nurse to now supervising the team and having to begin to pay attention to other people's needs and thoughts and feelings other than what I was going through. So I had all of these I think seeds along the way. Then I moved into the executive level, and where I became a chief nursing officer and a chief clinical officer, and eventually I became a hospital CEO. And so I've had this building process, but I want to just tell you a story of where all of this nimbleness and this flexibility really showed up in my life at a critical time. And so I had a situation where I was the CEO of a hospital, and we had this really traumatic event happen at the hospital where one of our team members accused us of being an unpatriotic hospital.
Oh wow.
It went national. Now, here I am, the CEO. Now, by this time, I've been at this organization nearly 18 years, building up this stellar career and reputation. And all of a sudden, everything gets thrown up in the air, right? We are in this turbulent time. And the media is calling. We have picketers outside of my hospital. I mean,
Oh,
it was bananas. And I
right.
just kept hoping someone would pinch me and wake me up because this could not be happening to me. Well, long story short, after we get the hospital back in, because mind you, we're trying to take care of patients, which is are ultimately what we're there to do. In the middle of all of this craziness going, military people calling, saying to this other person, "Thank you for defending us," and like it was just wild. So at the end, we get things settled, and we're back in the business of taking care of patients. And my organization did what a lot of organizations do. They said, "Oh, we need to make a change." And we decided that, we're going to have to let you go. Now, I was just like, really? Really? I end up paying the price for this craziness. But you know what? When you're at the top, that is something that's really important for your listeners to understand. When you get to the top, you are one of the most visible people within your organization, but you're also one of the most vulnerable. And we should never mistake that. When you are in a leadership position, if it happens on your watch, it just may be yours to own. And for whatever that costs. But shortly after that, I had been married for 25 years. And then shortly after I lost my job and all of that craziness happened, then I realized that the person I was married to was the person I didn't need to stay married to. So now you have these two critical crises sort of coming together in a relatively short period of time. I was still trying to get my sea legs from losing my job. And then I found now I'm in the middle of a divorce, right? And all of this happens. And at the end of the day, Barry, what came to my rescue, what pulled me through that was my emotional intelligence. I did not even know at the time what it was called. I didn't even know there was a thing called emotional intelligence. I just knew that I was digging deep to try to climb out of this hole that I had somehow fallen into and climbing my way up. Now, I want to be really clear about this. This does not mean that emotional intelligence is not the lack of emotion. It's not pretending that you don't have emotion. So I feel like I gave myself a minute to be human when all of that was happening and feel whatever I felt. They were my emotions, it
Yeah.
was what I was feeling, and that was all good. But then I had to decide how long I was going to sit there. How long are you going to
Mm,
stay there? And I use my emotional intelligence to help me climb up to say, you know what? You're a big girl. Things don't always go your way. You're not the first person something bad has happened to, and you won't be the last. You get to redefine yourself. So, are these two key situations now going to define who you are and therefore define your future? And my answer was no way. That is not happening. I am taking the keys, I'm getting in the driver's seat, and I am starting fresh. I'm ripping up the old book, it's going in the trash, and I'm getting out a new book that's got blank pages. And I get to write the story. I am writing this story. And what happened when that triggered in my mind, Barry, I completely changed my entire life and started on this path that brings me here with you today, speaking about the work that I do, supporting leaders and coaching leaders. I changed everything about my life at that moment because that's what I felt like I needed. I changed my hair from perm to natural. I lost 50 pounds. I moved. I sold everything in my house. I even moved states. Like I changed everything in my life to give myself what I thought I needed and to create that new path. I wrote my first book, which just for giggles for your listeners, my first book is entitled Are You Out of Your Blank Mind? And you get to fill in the blank.
Yes,
Are
yes,
you
I
out of your
love it.
blank mind? And it was A Woman's Guide to Successfully Surviving Infidelity. And the reason I wrote that book is because as I started to pull myself out, because remember, I didn't give myself a long time to sit and wallow in this. I decided I was done and ready to move on. As I made that decision and things started to happen for me, people were saying, "How are you doing this?" Like they were surprised that I wasn't more depressed for a longer period. How are you doing this? How are you? And I was, well, I decided I'm done. I made a decision. And I began to realize the more questions I got, I began to realize people don't know how to do this. It's not a natural thing for people to just move on for something like that. And once I figured out how I did that, then I wrote that book. And so that just began a whole journey. I started a product line. Like my life just took off when I made the decision that I was in control, and therefore the results of my life are my responsibility.
There it is. Yeah, yeah, okay, yeah. Oh, wow. Okay.
Mhm.
Oh man. So, so in that, at what point did you get into the coaching space? I don't want to miss that. So
Mhm.
when did that start?
So after I sort of did this, about face, I couldn't immediately do it. So I started my own business. And I started my own business as a consultant in doing what I knew, which was healthcare operations. And so I got a contract in Phoenix, and I was an interim CEO at a hospital in Phoenix. And I remember I'm working at this place, and it was just, one day it just hit me like, it's the same nonsense. Like, this is the same nonsense. It's a different place, a different building, a different state, but it's the same nonsense, the part of the work that I did not like. And so I was talking to one of my old CEOs on the phone one day on a break, and he and I were just catching up. And I said to him at that moment, I said, I'm getting out. And he said, what do you mean? I said, I'm getting out. I don't want to do this work anymore. It's not making me happy. This is just not, it's just, there's some aspects of it that I love. And there's absolutely some aspects that I'm like, if I never saw it again, it would not be too soon. And so he said, well, what are you going to do? I said, I don't know, but I'll figure it out. I know I'm not going to do this. So I called my dad, Barry. I called my dad, and I was talking to my dad, and I said, Dad, I'm not going to do this work anymore. He's like, what? What are you talking about? You worked hard, you climbed the ladder, you got to the CEO level, you blah, 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 right? I'm like, yeah, no. He's like, well, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm good. I'm actually really good.
Yeah,
And he
yeah.
said, well, of course, so I didn't help the situation because he said, well, what are you going to do? And I said, I don't know. And he's like, okay, now I know you're crazy. You're telling me you're leaving all of this that you've built, but you have no idea what you're going to do. And I'm like, nope, but I am good and I'm going to be good. Here's what I figured out. What I did was I dissected the work that I was doing. What did I love about that work? And what was it that I didn't want to do? I realized that the part of the joy for me in climbing that ladder of success and getting to that level that I reached was helping teams, developing teams, supporting leaders, coaching leaders. That's where the light bulb went off for me. That's the part that I love. When a leader comes into my office and sits down and says, I am having this challenge, and we get to brainstorm and we collaborate and we connect the dots, and they leave with the light bulb going off like, oh, I got it now. I was like at my highest point. I'm thinking this is the part that I like. And so I decided to take that piece, that coaching, that consulting, and make that my focus. And then I get to leave all the other nonsense that I didn't like behind.
Okay. So it wasn't necessarily the consulting that was driving you, crazy bonkers a bit, that was really getting under your skin, but it was just it wasn't your space, it seems like, and how
Yeah.
you weren't creating the parameter. So because I was going to ask, and I think there's still value there. What would you say is the difference between consulting and coaching, and what does it do for you? What would be the benefits of one versus the other?
Yeah, so coaching is more of an imparting of your wisdom and bringing that into the environment and the space, so that they can push forward and get that outcome that they're looking for. Technically, coaching is an extraction. Coaching is you are pulling the greatness out of someone so that they can rise to the level and become their best selves, right? And you're doing that through strategies and techniques. But consulting is more here, I have this problem in my business. So you've dealt with this problem in the past. Come in, bring me your strength, your skill set, your experience, and help me solution it. Help me get it to a place where we're moving forward. So when I think of consulting, I'm thinking my work with my entrepreneurs is also a lot of consulting, some coaching, because the leader may need to do some work on how they lead, how they show up, how they manage their team, those sorts of things. But the consulting aspect is here's what you can do for this problem, this solution. Where the coaching aspect is more, gosh, how do we get you to show up as that leader that's bringing their best stuff forward, right? And so I hope that answers your question. And for me, consulting is more of a imparting your wisdom and bringing that knowledge to the situation so that you can help them with specific solutions and problem solving techniques. Coaching is more of an extracting of a person's inner wisdom, and all of the, because they have all the answers inside of them. It's just my job as a coach to help you bring it out. That's how I
Yeah.
look at the difference between the two.
Oh yeah. So yeah, I think that's just amazing. So I have a coach myself, and yeah, so I just the work that we do is life changing. So
Mhm.
yeah, I just hearing it from your perspective, I couldn't have said it any more eloquently. So yes, thank you, thank you, thank
You're
you.
welcome.
So so what I really want to just dig into that a little bit. What does it take to become a coach? How do you know if coaching is for you? And yeah, let's just start there if we could.
Yeah, so becoming a coach, I feel like a coach is a bit of a calling.
Mm,
And I feel like you know it when one of your sources of joy is that helping that person get there, helping them achieve that success that they're looking for, helping them get to that outcome. When you derive so much success from seeing the success that you help others create, for me, that's an aspect of okay, coaching might be for you. But there's some things involved in coaching that I think are really important. Number one, understanding the theory of coaching and what coaching is. Coaching is not telling, right?
mm,
And so we
mm,
have to be careful. And sometimes this also goes back to leadership a little bit because, when you think of the difference between a leader and the manager, often a leader is that person who's drawing it out of you again, where the manager is simply telling you what you need to do when you need to do it. Right. And so we have to be
yes,
careful with coaching. We have to understand that coaching is not necessarily telling someone what to do. Coaching is being able to release judgment of that person and accepting them for who they are, where they are. You're partnering with them, grabbing their hand and helping them walk forward on this journey. That's simply what your job is at the coach as a coach. But you need to understand some theory behind that. You need specific skills and strategies because you can't coach every person the same. Every one of my leaders that I coach, they're all different. And I need to have an arsenal of tools, resources, theories that I can use in order to be most effective with that person who's sitting in front of me because it's different. The old school theory of treat everyone the same is so done. That is so
yeah,
not really accurate. That's not where things are today. You need to adjust to the person in front of you. And so having a robust skill set is going to help you be a very successful coach. There are coaching programs that you can go through, there's coaching certifications that you can get. What I love about those is it gives you a lot of the theory, and it gives you a lot of tools and techniques that you can use. I am not a certified coach, but I've been coaching organizationally and with leaders for like 25 years. So I'm like, my life is my certification.
I
I've been
love
doing
it.
this for many, many years. And so, but if you are someone who's just entering this field and you don't have that strength of the experience and skill set in your background, then I absolutely recommend getting some sort of a coaching and certification. And then the next thing that's really important is to decide, who do you want to serve? Who do you want to serve? Because everyone is not the client for you. Everyone is not the person that's going to resonate with you. So maybe there's something in your background. For instance, maybe you've had some experiences with domestic violence and that is your passion. Maybe you have done a lot of work with parenting and children, or parents who are raising challenging children, or something. So define, where's your passion that you can combine now this knowledge that you're going to get from your coaching and the learning that you go through in coaching, and then define who you want to serve. It's really important, because otherwise you end up being this person who's just trying to be everything for everyone, and it just simply doesn't work. It doesn't
Oh,
work well, doesn't allow you to build a level of expertise. I have been that person where I say I can help everyone. Like I'm a coach, I've got a pretty wide range in terms of my abilities. But you know what I settled on was my passion, which was leaders. And leaders, for me, the reason I settled on leaders is because when I got my first true leadership position and I became a chief nursing officer, there is no like school, there's no who's teaching me how to do this job, who's really helping and coaching and supporting me so that I could be the best leader. No one. It was great, you got the position, here's the keys, here's the budget, here's the office, here's the policies and procedures, and this is your team, have at it. And so for me, what I am passionate about now is being able to support leaders so that they can show up and be the best leaders. I made some mistakes, no doubt. I made a lot of mistakes along the way. I think I did a decent job with the tools that I had in front of me, and I think I was a pretty good leader. But could I have been better? Absolutely. And could my journey could I have shortened that curve a little if someone was there coaching and supporting and helping me? I think without a doubt. And so that's why I do the work I do now. Maybe I can help a leader not go through some of the pain points that I went through, help them see how they can rise within themselves to meet these challenges, when they need to shut it down, shut it off, and have that be okay, walk away from the situation, and then how they need to show back up so that they can continue to move the team forward.
wow. Wow. So yeah. So that's amazing. That is amazing. So the leader, and then also like executive leaders. Is what made you? Well, it sounds like it's because that's where you were, and that was a pain point for you, right?
Mhm.
So when it comes to that, what I want to ask is, when it at the entry level, or at that time where you're transitioning from one career to another, is it too soon to say I want to be an executive? I want to be at the executive level.
No, I think that it's never too soon to do that, because a part of, and here's what I wish we did. I wish that most of us would work with a coach much earlier in their career,
Mm, yeah.
because you should always begin with the end in mind.
Mm,
And oftentimes, what we do is we're just dealing with what's in front of us. We're just going step by step. I'll tell you this, had I worked with a coach, had I got some clarity around who I was, what I wanted my life to look like, what the vision that I had for myself, I probably would have never hit that CEO level. Now, not that that was a bad thing. I was on that path. It was great. I did it. It was amazing, right? To be able to lead an organization at that level. But that wasn't really where I was going. Right? That wasn't really what I saw for my life. 12, 14-hour days where I felt like I could never leave my cell phone behind. I remember going on vacation one day, Barry, and we were on vacation with the family, and my husband and I were going out, and we went out and we were in the middle of some activity. I don't remember. And I realized I left my cell phone at the
okay.
hotel. I nearly lost my mind. I was like, no, 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 stop. Whole house freeze, right? Everything stopped, because I can. because what was going through my head was the hospital might call. What if Joint Commission walks through the door, right? What if we get a state survey? What if something, what if, right? And so I felt during that time in my life, I didn't really feel like I could really be off. I didn't really feel like I could have that downtime and away time because at any point something could happen with my team and I would need to respond. I just would have to. And so, knowing that now, I may have made some different choices had I thought forward to what I wanted my life to really look like. And this is the other part of the work that I do with leaders around redesigning the life that they want and love. A leader might come
Yeah.
to me and say, I want to be a regional vice president. And I'm like, cool. That is great that you know what you want. Now, let's back into that a little bit. Let's start with clarity. And let's start with you. Fast forward 20 years, what do you want your life to look like? And they'll go, well, I want to be at the beach and 8 hours a day. And then we go back and I said, so how does that connect with this regional VP that travels 80% of the time, that doesn't spend very much time at home? They're living out of a suitcase. They're working 16 hours a day. How does that square? And they might say, ooh, that doesn't really feel like it's going in the right direction. Now, does that mean that's not the role for you? No, because if you tell me I want to make this an interim stop as a launch pad for something else, and now I'm like, okay, cool, because now we get it. Now we've got a plan. Now we know the goal is not for you to get there and be there for 20 years. The goal is for you to do maybe 3 to 4 years in this position. And then we're going to plan out where you're going next and how this role is going to help you get there. And so I wish more of us would start earlier working with someone, really defining what you want your life to look like, because that life will require you to design it. Otherwise, you're just going to get what you get.
Okay. So that brings me to and I know we're probably coming to the near end of this conversation, which has been so amazing. So I want to thank you. How does one design a life?
Hmm.
Well, because it sounds like it could be so far fetched, and I just know you probably just want to break it down and make it seem like, oh wow, why didn't we all think of this?
Yeah,
So how do you do it?
that's a great question. And oftentimes people do think that I'm talking about a fairy tale. Right. That's not reality. This is not, I'm not talking about Walt Disney World. I'm talking about designing the life that you want. Now, is that going to require some work? Absolutely. But it begins with you figuring out what that is. Take all of the constraints off of you and decide, what do you really want in your life? And that's going to look different for everyone. So what I say I really want in my life is going to look different than what you say you want in your life. So let's step back. Let's design the life. Now we design it from multiple perspectives because you have different elements of your life. You've got to decide what your financial status looks like. You've got to decide where you want to live. Do you want to live in the city? Do you want to live near the beach? You don't want to live in the mountains. Like, really, what's the ultimate life that you want to have? And then we've got to define what your work day looks like, right? Whatever you're doing to generate money or revenue or whatever that is, what does that look like? Do you want to work 10 hours a day, or do you see yourself working 5 hours a day? And then if so now, are you working with people? Are you working solo? Right? So we go through a whole thing. It's a whole process that we walk through in order to really design, and we design each aspect, and then we can step back and put it all together to say, wow, this is super cool. This is what I want. This is what I want for my life. And then at the end of that, there is this understanding that it is possible. There is no one who's to tell you you can't have that,
Mm,
right? There is no you can't have it police. That doesn't exist in my world anyway. I don't want to hear anyone tell me what I can't have or what I can't do. I simply decide what I want and then I go do it. And so if you decide that this is the life that you want, and then you do the work to define those things and start to put that into place, now you can move towards it. And now you've got a target. Now you've got a beacon out there calling you so that when you step off the path, and you will, because that's just life, right? Something's going to throw a ball at your head or at your hit you in the belly, or something's going to happen. You're going to find yourself ducking and bobbing and weaving because that's just what life is. When that happens, you are more apt to step back on your path when you step off, because you have designed it, because you now have a vision and a goal, and you know where you're going. You know where you're going. Whether you're there or not is irrelevant right now. You know where you're going. And that makes all the difference.
Wow. Yeah, so I can't wait to to play this back and take notes more and just really dig into that, because that was amazing. So the last thing I would like to get into and just ask you, and I think this is going to be a standing question for the podcast, is simply, what is your purpose and how did you step into that? And we've heard the story and it's amazing. But I wonder, is there going to be a bit of difference here just from that vantage point? So I would like to
Yeah.
ask.
So, I think my purpose for being here is to help others unlock and then to help them lift off, right? It's about unlocking and then lifting off. So, unlocking the artificial boundaries that we place around ourselves. Because, as I said, they really don't exist. It's a construct, it's fake, right? There really are no boundaries around us. We create those. And that doesn't mean that we don't have challenges and there aren't people trying to hold us back and there aren't people that don't. That doesn't mean any of that. It means ultimately at the end of the day, you can get what you want to get. You just need to do the work and be committed to that. But that's a mindset. That is about reconstructing the way people think. And that is the work that I love to do, because sometimes my sister will say to me, "Sister, who knew? Who knew that we could just design a life?" And I'm like, well, that's why I'm here, right? That's why God put me here, so I can help people know that you can design the life that you love. Some years ago when I said I did all that changing in my life, we were living in Texas. And my sons and I were talking and we were joking around and we were like, well, I wonder what it would be like to live in Florida and feel like I'm just on vacation every day with the palm trees and just doing the whole Florida thing. And we laughed about it, and then I said, but why aren't we in Florida? And they're
Mm.
like, well, the next thing you know, Barry, it was a snowball rolling down the hill. We were we were calling people, we were doing things. Okay, what do we need to make happen? Next thing you know, we were packed up and moving to Florida. I flew out, found a house, flew back. Okay, guys, I got the house. You got everything. When we moving to date, boom, boom, boom. We were in Florida for 5 years. And then we're in Florida for 5 years. We're doing our thing, just sort of enjoying things. And everybody's like, oh, what brought you here? Work? And I'm like, no, we just wanted to come here. I just wanted to feel like I was on vacation every day. But now I've had enough of the hurricanes and everything else. And now I'm ready to go back to Texas. And so one of my sons was in my room and we were talking about maybe we should move back to Texas. And I said, we're going back. And everybody stopped and looked at me and they're like, oh, shoot, here she goes again. Like,
This is
she's
it.
so serious right now. And my son said to me later, he said, the quickness with which that became a reality for us, he said, what just blew my mind. Because we were just kind of having fun talking about it. And then you could see it almost switch in your brain. When you decided, it was done. We were like, oh, no, we're out. We're getting ready to move back to Texas. That's the kind of thing. There are no police. There is nobody putting boundaries around you but you. And so you have to decide what you want in your life. And I feel like that is my purpose because I have learned to do that through my life. And now I want to share it with others. I want to help them to unlock and to be able to just really rise out of wherever they are and step into ultimately getting more of what they want and less of what they don't.
Wow. Wow. So this, this has been amazing. This has been amazing. I just want to thank you. Um, my last thing, and it's not a question. It's just, well, just opening up the floor. Is there anything that you feel that we missed that you would like to speak on? Now's the time. Now's the time.
Um, I think we covered a lot of ground, which was great. It was nice the way that we flowed through the conversation.
Yeah.
I think I would just ask everyone to take away, pay attention to emotional intelligence. If you're not really familiar with what it is, invest the time to learn more about it. There's books out there on emotional intelligence, but ultimately, years ago, we used to believe that IQ was the predictor of success. And everyone talked about IQ. What's your IQ score? And that was going to determine if you made it or not. We now understand that your EQ score is the predictor of success. And so if you are struggling, if you feel stuck, if you hate change, if you lack flexibility, all of that goes back to emotional intelligence. And so take the time to fine tune and work on your emotional intelligence. And then you can move to that space where you're getting more consistent and positive results in your life. That is my purpose. That is what I am here to do. I love working with leaders to help them unlock in their own lives. But at the end of the day, I love to see people winning.
Wow. Okay. Amazing. What a way to just wrap things up there. Last thing I would like to do is just, invite you to, welcome everybody to you. How can the audience find you, whether it be social media or wherever you find wherever you are? Please just share that with us.
Absolutely. So I'm available on all the social media platforms at Coach Rhonda Y. Williams or Coach or Rhonda Y. Williams. Sometimes the name gets too long for them. So it's either Coach Rhonda Y. Williams or it's Rhonda Y. Williams. You can also visit my website, thestressfreeleader.net, thestressfreeleader.net. I just invite you to go out there. I have some free leadership tools and resources on the website. Go out there, browse. There's a free ebook on the website available that you can download. And I love the ebook because it tells you about how we show up when we're stressed, because we show up differently. We have different type of stressors that trigger us, and then we show up differently. So I invite people to go download the free ebook and then just stay connected with me.
Oh wow. Yes, yes, yes. I know. I know. Yeah. After all the value you added today, I'm looking forward to hearing how folks really want to reach out and connect with you. Honestly, I want to just say, no pressure, but we got to do this again. We just had to. This was amazing. This was amazing. So, yes, I want to thank you, thank you. And I'm going to close out with this. This is the Leadership Library. It is the number one podcast for millennials to get resources on leadership. We're going to really break this thing down for you across a multitude of industries so you can know what is expected of you before you get there. So whether you're entry level or you're changing careers, yeah, we want to talk to your boss and your boss's boss to get you prepared. So this has been another episode, and we are going to sign off now.